Hello, everybody. Happy Monday to you. I'm Psychic Medium Jaime.
And Spiritwalker Nicole.
We are going to discuss a topic which you don't find very often, to where Spiritwalker Nicole and I are not always on the same page, because we do see a lot of all the shades of spirit on pretty much the same level, right? Except she sees it from more of that angelic level, that connection level, your spirit guides, that higher level. And I'm seeing it more from the perspective of, the middle ground, those middle realms and the lower realms of people who have passed, along with the clients who come in and their energies as well, right? Sometimes when they come in, they're like pissed off at that loved one or that friend that passed. And it maybe was the way they passed. Maybe it was just things left unsaid, unfinished business, if you will, or just the fact that they're just not, they weren't a nice person in life. And so that person that's now left behind, or people, still hold a lot of that in. But it also goes to our day-to-day lives as well, and how we navigate through the act of forgiveness, right? And so we're going to discuss what it means to each of us, and what it means to each of us on that spiritual level, because it doesn't have to just be the human emotion. It's also on the spirit side. And spirit does ask for forgiveness from time to time. Or they'll be on the other side being like, I don't need forgiveness because I'm still the jerk on this side as I was on that side. And so my ego is still over here with me, and I don't have to do it. So we're going to talk about that as well. Talk about what if you're not ready, right? Just not quite yet to forgive. What is that doing for your spiritual growth and your ascension as well? I'm going to talk about why forgiving can be very hard and impossible sometimes. And you're going to be talking about
why you should, like, why, and even if you can't, like how you can work on it, how you can just start making those positive steps to get yourself in that spot where it's even a possibility.
That's the word right there, for it to be a place of possibility, right? And I kind of want to, start it out with our sacred circle last night.
Mhm.
And knowing that each one of us has been in the position as one of our guests that joined us last night. And, we kind of go around randomly, and it's kind of fun because we had a smaller group, a Super Bowl, and those smaller groups actually come out to be a little more interesting sometimes, because we really get to just dive into the energy of each individual. And, we only take 10 people, and at 6, we were able to do something really cool with one of our guests. And I was able to see an energy around her that was bringing her down, pulling that energy from her. And, I saw that it was in this lower vibration, all the different ways that they had, I don't want to give away much because we respect our clients and their stories, but just I knew this was a lower vibrational energy, and she was able to confirm a lot of it. And when we first started, you could feel that anger within her, and how they passed was in a lower vibrational state, and she was pissed. Like, you could just feel it oozing from her, right?
Well,
Like,
it's just it just shows, like, and she was a newer member, a newer guest, but it's, you just never know what people are going through. We're so busy with our own stuff and trying to get to work or trying to get the kids to school or whatever it is, or when you go in that grocery line and you're impatient and you get irritated with the people around you, you just don't know their story. You have no idea. And I think we forget that sometimes because we kind of get wrapped up in just what we need to do and what we need to get done. And if we were to just take a second and maybe, like we did here, like, really listen to her and like move into that energy with her permission, of course. And then we learned a lot. We learned a lot.
and we were able to actually, at the end, the 6 of us came together, and it was a really cool group because we've got Reiki masters and mediumship students, and some very strong individuals as well in that group. And we were able to ask this individual, can you at least send love and light? If you are not in that place of forgiveness at the moment, then at least for right now, send the individual who's on the other side love and light, and let us help build you up. Let us help send you loving light energy along with the person that passed. And I love the answer because she said, I can do that. And that was big because I think initially in the beginning, she knew that that individual was around and was so angry and yet was able to let go of the ego, which is not a bad thing, and allow herself to just be taken in by a whole bunch of powerful women to be able to help her and even the spirit on the other side for that brief moment. And that was a big sign of how forgiveness can take place. So she didn't have to forgive in the moment, but she had other options, which we're going to talk about. So the business of forgiveness, right?
Hmm.
What is it? What's going on here? This is your topic. Like, you know how I feel. So I'm like, you just start this out.
Well, I want to start out with just, again, getting people to the point where they're open to it. And, I'll talk about my thoughts on it a little bit later, but we can practice. You can practice little acts of forgiveness every single day, which helps you ultimately when you need to work on the big stuff. So, for like Jamie, when you're driving, for instance, and somebody cuts you off, how do you react?
Depends on the day. I think I'm going to toss that one back to you, Spirit Walker Nicole. How do you respond when someone cuts you off 9 out of 10 times?
I send them love and light, and no, no,
Mm,
no. You're allowed to get angry, and you're allowed to just honk or use words that maybe you don't always use, or gestures, or whatever. But I'm trying to get to that spot where it's I just take a minute, take a breath, and then work on forgiveness, and just be like, not it's not personal. They're maybe they're just jerk drivers, whatever, but just take a second and step back and then just let it go. And hopefully, by the time I get home, I've forgotten all about it. I mean, if you're holding on, if someone cuts you off and you're holding on to that for like more than, a minute or two, and you need to take a breath. You need to take the exit, grab I don't know, a cup of tea, something. I was going to say coffee, but that'll probably make you more aggressive. But just take a second and just be like, okay, ultimately, how important is this? I didn't get in an accident. Nobody got hurt. It was just inconsiderate. I'm going to be the bigger person and just, and then go along with your day. Turn your music up, do whatever, but, move past it. But it's those little acts that can kind of get you ready for the bigger ones. And
you know what, though? The thing that gets me with the people that cut me off is if it's me by myself, I don't react quite as quick, right? It depends on the day. Let's just all be honest. If I have my kids in the car or loved ones in my car, then I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Right? Why is it so important that you not pre-plan? Because I'm worried about loved ones. So we're going to talk about that as well. Like what happens when something happens to our loved ones on that part of it. So that's where that gets me. Absolutely.
what about when you are like at the grocery store and you're in line and then someone kind of cuts in front of you?
Okay, so let's just be honest. That happens more oftentimes than not, right? Because people aren't paying attention. They just cut in line. We actually had a physical therapist who was talking about an incident in a, CVS or Walgreens or something when it came down to flu shots, right? We're not even at COVID shots. And someone just barreling through the line. And that was, I don't know, he probably said it was like 10 deep in that line waiting for flu shots. And no one, said anything. And I think it's a lot of times because we are so afraid of confrontation. So that kind of goes into that part of it as well. But everyone was fuming. And what I have noticed is that when the pandemic started first, right? And I do our grocery shopping for our 92 to 95, depends what day it is, your old neighbor. So shout out to Maurice. And I'm there at the grocery store once or twice a week, right? I might need a few things for myself. And you know how they have the lines way back and they've got the things, they try very hard to make sure that they've got this one goes to aisle one, this one goes to aisle two, what register you're supposed to be at. But there are those people, especially the elderly people, that come in and they aren't paying attention or they don't understand what's still going on. And people initially started getting angry when this first started. And I'm sitting back there like, are you flipping kidding me? Like they obviously are not understanding what's happening. Like we need to forgive the fact that this is new. Like they don't understand this part of it. And now I've noticed that people actually are starting to back off. And it's been almost a year, which is kind of sad to say that I'm finally seeing it. But I am seeing people like, excuse me, there's a line, or if there are only one or two people behind them, I'm seeing them go ahead. There's usually a line. So they're educating And they're always like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I've yet to see someone, even someone that's just young and spry, just be like, oh my gosh. Like, we are adjusting as a society on that part of it. But when we know better and when we have those times, I have been like, are you flipping kidding me? Like, if they cut you off to get into the drive through at, Costco, those cutting in line type of things, it's the entitlement for me that pisses me off when
Yeah.
these people feel that they just deserve to be in that spot. And I've just taken the time nowadays to realize that we are all in such a different space that I'm just going to sit back. I can pull my phone out and keep myself busy, or I can count to 10 and breathe and find those ways to just relax. But it is actually softening people now, and just having them communicate with one another.
Yeah. And what I've learned about myself is I'm very, I'll take a lot. Like I'm pretty tolerant when I'm in a line or something and somebody does that. And if I truly think they didn't know, I'm like, whatever, just go ahead. It's fine. What I will speak up for is if somebody's doing something obviously wrong to somebody else. If I see like a Karen go off on like an elderly person who accidentally went up there, no, that's not. I will say something, and I forgive them, but I'm very defensive of people. When it's just they're just having a hard time, and I sympathize with them and I feel bad for them. So it's like, everybody needs to back off a little bit, and I will tell them, but I don't harbor it. Like I say my piece respectfully, tell them what I think, and then I move on with my day. It's forgiveness.
Absolutely. So we're going to go to break and come back and talk more about forgiveness, other ways that that does affect us between social media, bullying on the playground, and our loved ones. And we're going to continue to evolve this topic and start seeing the two sides of where we come from on that as well. This coming Wednesday, we have a dream circle. It is a brand new circle that we're offering. So we have our sacred circles the first Sunday of every month at 4 p.m. Rain or shine. That's through Zoom. That's $25. You can get your spot early. It's already up for March. The Dream Circle is $25, but we have a buy one, get one half off. So grab a friend and check out our Dream Circle. It is very limited as well in people because we are going to be discussing your dreams and helping you interpret your dreams and give clarity and validation to you through your spirit team. So that's this coming Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Psychic Medium Jaime.
Spiritwalker Nicole.
We are Shades of Spirit, and today we are talking about forgiveness, both. It's Monday morning, both on a personal level and a spiritual level, both on that human journey and the spirit's journey, and how we can differ and yet still come together at the end of the episode, talking about how we both move into that space. It's definitely a difficult spot to be in from time to time. Before we continue on our topic, it looks like we have a caller. So, Olivia, can we have our caller, please?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Debbie from Vancouver. Debbie, you are on with Psychic Medium Jaime and Spirit Walker Nicole.
Well, good morning, ladies.
Good morning. How are you feeling this morning?
I feel good. I slept through the night, which was astounding for me.
Interesting. I hit
I
on
was
that.
very excited after last night.
I love to hear that because it's taking that process, that shape, that form. And that was actually something that I asked for in that circle, was for you to be able to sleep through the night. Like I get that. I think I had all of your dreams though, because I dreamt the entire night last night. Like it was the most restless night of sleep I had. I'm not going to lie. Like I was like, what is going on today? So I love that. I love that you slept through the night. What else are you feeling?
I guess I just feel quiet. That while I heard you this morning say about how how bothered I was by it, that's the word I'll choose today. I was just so frustrated by knowing something was there, but not really knowing what it was, wondering who it was, and why they were so relentless. Like, just leave me alone. So that's where all that energy came from, of being super mad at that person.
I got that. And I love that we could validate that for you as well, and to help, bring some clarity for you.
yes, it was, you know, like, like a huge relief. Like it was like a dog seeing color, feeling like I was the only dog that saw color.
Oh, that gives me the chills, honestly, because you are such a warm-hearted soul. And for you to even be in tune with your body and how this energy was making you feel is huge. And being able to, like we said, it was the right time, the right place, no coincidences. The group we were with was supposed to be the group that we were with last night. And to have you be able to join us in that, and for everybody to come together, like-minded individuals, and help. And we don't have to know anything about you or the spirit on the other side. And we all dived in to be able to help bring everybody's energy up and connect. And I love that, sometimes it isn't necessarily anger. Sometimes it's frustrated. Sometimes we feel bothered as well. And that can just be unnerving
Yeah.
until we can really get to the root of that cause and allow ourselves to move into that space. I love the validation. That's
Mm-hmm.
so awesome. I'm so happy that you're feeling energetically a little bit better as well.
Yeah, because it's, it was no fun being the person I had become. And I often question, I'm like, who is this person? Why do I act like this? This isn't my true nature to be that way. But yet I feel like I could rip someone's face off and think nothing of it.
And that's where that anger came in that I really felt earlier in the in the evening when we were all together. But now even your obviously it's funny because you couldn't use your voice, which was very interesting. Her
Yeah.
mic didn't work during our circle, you guys, so she was typing in the chat box, and that is like that silencing part. And so it's even more frustrating to have to be typing out your responses to questions and all that stuff going on. But you feel lighter. Your vibration feels lighter, and that is that first step in that process. Let me ask you though, were you able to start to move into a space of forgiveness, or was it just the moment that you were able to be in of sending love and light? Because either one is perfectly fine.
Like yourself, forgiveness is a wishy-washy word to me. It doesn't really represent much of anything for myself. So I can't say as I necessarily forgive that person, but I am in a space where I could care less about that person, and I'm grateful it's gone. Twin flame or not, I have no interest in anyone that comes to harass me.
And it's taking back your power. And that's the most important part.
Yes.
And I love it. And listen to her. She's like,
Yeah.
I will not. I love it. That is awesome. There's going to be no more BS from people. I'm taking my power back. And what I love is that it's more of that being grateful to be able to do this for yourself. Right. And that's the thing, is that those on the other side, sometimes we don't get to that point of true forgiveness. And that's okay for me. Right. And that's okay for us to be grateful that you're able to move in a space of empowerment in this life, because we still have lessons to learn. And you've taken back your power, Debbie. And I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for calling in. I was actually going to email you today and see how you were feeling. So this was even better to be able to hear your voice and feel your energy, and just know that we're able to all work together and making a little bit of a difference in each one of our lives, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Whew, that gives me the chills.
Listen to Debbie. That's like 12 hours later. It's like two different people.
I love it. We broke our group up. And so 3 of us worked with the spirit on the other side, and 4 of us worked with Debbie's energy, and really was able to connect on all levels. And I think that, for those of you that were in our circle that's joining us, I can see there's a couple of you on right now, take that to heart, like validation that we've done something really good to help some people out in this world and in spirit form. Okay. So you know what, for me, actually you had a good one of forgiveness too, with social media.
Social media.
Social media. Yep.
It's just, I want you guys to think about, even when has anybody ever said something mean to you on social media? Like it might be you posted something and it might be some backhanded compliment, or just out and out mean. I mean, these days of such politically charged content, and masks, no masks, vaccines, no vaccines, whatever it is, people have a lot to say.
Mm-hmm.
And the safety of being behind that keyboard and not having to engage it with somebody face to face, or is just brought out, sometimes the best, but mostly the worst in people. how there's no repercussions for the mean things that they say. What's that mean? Is it mean tweets that they do that the celebrities already, but those are hilarious. But, and I mean, they're funny, but it's just like, you got to think that maybe that does hurt a little bit. I mean, it's hard to read stuff like that when it's not, um, I don't know. For me, it just seems like, and I mean, I laugh and they have a good sense of humor about it, but there's got to be a place that it hurts. And so at some point, again, it's about learning to just kind of forgive those people and, hit the ban button, hit the, what, or block button, whatever, and delete that and just move on with your day. It's just forgive them for being the way they are, and forgive yourself maybe for having a reaction to it and letting them have that moment of your attention or time, and then just move forward.
Absolutely. And a lot of times that starts with those kids being bullied on the playground and speaking up. And we're watching kids come into their own power now, and other kids standing up for them as well. And that's a big part of that forgiveness, is what we see at home, what we emanate, what we take out into the world. And, so that we can't snap at each other as coworkers. And I think about that as well. Like, how many times did you sit in an office and you could be snippy and you have that day, but now we're all locked inside and it's all Zoom meetings. So it's kind of hard to do jabs at each other. And so now we just have so much free time to be able to just criticize and rip apart somebody else and their emotions. And those kids on the playground, it's the same type of environment, right? It starts somewhere, and allowing them to understand their self-worth and to be able to forgive and move on, and and find their voice. And it does just kind of stem also forgiveness from that childhood age, and moving forward. And then hurting someone that crosses the line right before we go to break. That's a big one.
You mean like somebody who with your family members, or what do you
Yeah,
mean?
family members, friends, like,
Yeah. Oh, and it's the same thing. Like, I can take a lot myself, but when I see somebody hurting somebody that I love, oh, that's a different story.
yeah, you kind of
Yeah.
turn Kathy Bates. That's where it's
I'm
at.
not the best. I'm not the best. I'm working on it. It's something I'm working on. Obviously, we're talking about just verbal abuse. Just things that they say, or with the kids or something. If somebody were to say something sort of, I don't know, uncalled for or mean about that, I'm a lot quicker to jump on that person, and it's harder. But I'm just teaching the kids to, like, stand up for themselves, and then also stand up for other people who maybe don't have that voice or don't have that opportunity, and to go out of their way to be nice to people, like that kid that's eating lunch by themselves, or that's just kind of withdrawn or whatever, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but that might be the difference of
That
just that attention.
that's it. And that's my middle one. She was in second grade, and she was the one who walked to the back of the bus after a field trip for a little boy who was on the spectrum. Always wanted to know what time it was when we got to school, and so we'd ask all the parents that had watches, and the kids kind of made fun of him and didn't understand him. And my middle one in second grade walked to the back of the bus where he was sitting by himself. Always the story that gets me emotional, because I'm picturing her. She's this tiny little thing with this tiny little voice, and she says, "Mom, I sat down next to him and I rode on the way home with him." And I thought that the compassion and the caring was so eye-opening for some of those kids. And then talking to her later on throughout the year is that people started talking to him a little more from that one act of kindness that she had. And, if it was my kid, I am fuming when somebody upsets my child, of course. But I have to move into that space of understanding them and forgiving them on a level of, it's not our energy to take on, and it's for them to have and to be able to learn their own lessons. And so we're going to get into that after this break. Now, on Wednesday as well, I have my Eye of Soul radio show on AM syndicated radio station. I just love it. I'm so excited for this month. I'm going to welcome Alexis Corey. She is a fantastic woman. I got to have a really good conversation with her. She lives in London, and we're talking about music and arts in the healing process. She is a singer-songwriter. She's coming into some, record labels. She's got stuff on Spotify. I'm going to post all that information so you guys can get ahead of the game for me before our show on Wednesday. But I mean, she paddled addiction and mental issues, and she creates now a safe space for people and be able to express and heal through music and the arts. It's going to be a beautiful show. That's this coming Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Psychic Medium Jamie.
And Spiritwalker Nicole.
We are on a train of forgiveness today.
The forgiveness train.
The forgiveness train. Toot toot. I love it. It is an important topic to have. It is something that is very controversial at times for people, because when you say the word forgiveness, some of us are like, oh, no, not doing it. Absolutely not doing it. And others are like opening their arms, and they're just this compassion's overflowing, and they're forgiving everybody and everything. And those of us that are like, how are you doing that? Like almost resentful in that way of like, what are you doing? And then
and you
you've
could
got,
be judged too.
yeah.
Like, "Ugh, you forgave him for that? Are you kidding me?" And it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. So then you're trying to explain yourself. It snowballs. It absolutely does. But we're here to talk about the two different sides of it. But you pulled up a quote, which I
Mhm.
really liked.
Yeah, there was not surprisingly, there's a lots of quotes on forgiveness. And I was like going through them last night. I'm like, oh, please, like I cannot say this stuff. I did like this one though. And it says, I never knew how strong I was until I had to forgive someone who wasn't sorry and accepted an apology I never received.
That's huge. Forgiving someone without an apology.
Or yeah, I mean they're not sorry, they're not going to apologize, and so that's what gets me to what I want to talk about, which is forgiveness and like you said, open arms and all that. For me, that's not what forgiveness is about. It's about um it's about changing the perspective, because when you don't forgive, when you let that anger, resentment, and emotion, whatever, stay in you, it takes up space, right? And so, that there's that phrase, forgive and forget, that I never ever have resonated with that. For me, it's about forgiving, not for the other person, but for yourself. And it's about like that inner work. Um, so like, if people could try for a moment to take the other person or situation, whatever, out of it for a second, and just think of yourself and how whatever action it was, it caused you pain. Now you just consider like how powerful of a person you are and how much power that you have on your own to decide the course of action. It's like you and you alone have this ability to forgive and make room. And that's like an important phrase, right? Forgive and make room. If not, you don't do it for the other person, you do it for yourself. Because when you clear out that anger, that resentment, then you make room for the good stuff, because you can't hold it all. It can't all take up space. Something's got to give. Um, and it's about freeing yourself from that chain or that bond of whatever is holding you back, or every time you think about it you get mad, or and like Debbie said, she says, well, that word's kind of wishy-washy to me. And it's, what about like just not giving anyone else that much power to have that much influence in your life? I mean, it's like when you do that, you are giving away your power. When you let things just stay with you and you get mad about them just thinking about it, or it makes you want to punch a wall or just lash out, that's a tremendous amount of power that you are giving away. Now imagine how it could be if you just moved on, released it. You don't have to forget, you don't have to let that other person in your life ever again if you don't want to, but now you're not holding on to it, and now it's not holding you down, it's not drowning you in that anger anymore, and you're just releasing yourself. And it's about just not letting those external forces control your moods or emotions anymore. Again, it doesn't mean forget, it just means making room.
I like the making room part. Rich has made a comment, and he said, forgiveness has been very helpful for me to move on regardless if the person decides to apologize or not.
It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if somebody's sorry or not, or if they apologize. It's nice. I mean, it's like an unexpected, like, oh, that's nice. But really, forgiveness is just about, if you can think about it in that way, it's for you. It's showing your growth as a person, and you're like, no, 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 I'm going to keep my power. Person that just cut me off, whatever, you're a bad driver, sucks for you. I bet your insurance is a lot higher than mine, because I'm over here like vibing in my car, driving in my lane, I'm going to get to my place safe, so good luck. And you make some room for that, because you could get mad and you could honk and turn it into a road rage event where people are calling 911, or you could just like get your S back together and just move on. Same thing. Like, you're just not holding it in. It's just like, acknowledge it and let it go.
And that is, is an interesting thought, right? So you're making room. And that ultimately is what we want to do. We want to be on a higher vibration. We want to be able to have that room in order for us to find the peace and the peace of mind within ourselves. We don't want to carry around someone else's energy. But what happens when we can't move forward, right? I had a client one time, and this lesson really taught me about forgiveness from Spirit's perspective. And she had someone come in, and he stood at the door, like he didn't even come through the door. And so I started to describe him, and she looked at me and she said, I do not want to talk to him. I said, okay. So I moved him out, respecting my client's wishes. And I've read her a couple more times since that part. And it was the same thing. He would come back in and he would start talking to me. And she said, no, I do not want to hear from him. I don't have anything to say. So I move him back out. And about a year and a half later, we had a reading. It had been a while. And I said, okay, he's back. Do you want me to? And she goes, no, wait. I'm at a space now to where I can have the conversation with him. And so she was able to have the conversation with this individual who had hurt her in her life. And she was able to start working in that space of forgiveness, more for her than for him. But she entertained that idea. And I say entertained because it was a light type of environment there. But that part of it was just definitely something that she had to work through to get there. But when she made that room and she freed that space, you're normally going to feel it in your heart chakra and your throat chakra. She was able to breathe and move forward, right? We have a question from Debbie. It's the question for me with that forgiveness business is, how do you forgive someone that has willfully done harm to you, aside from whom was let go? So that is part of that individual, that story I just said, to where it took her almost 2 full years to get to that point, knowing that individual kept coming back and knowing what that individual had done to her as a child, right? And it wasn't a pretty sight whatsoever. I didn't ask for a lot of details. She just gave me the very basics because she wanted me to understand on day one what a monster he was. And she got herself to that point of being able to forgive herself. And that was first and foremost. And then she was able to move into a space of, I want to say, light forgiveness. It wasn't like she was over here like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that we're back together again. No, it wasn't that whatsoever. But she was able to finally breathe. And, I think that, we've all probably had someone in our lives who has been in some type of abusive relationship. And how do you move forward as that individual? That's the tough one.
Again, it has nothing to do with them. I mean, they cause the pain, they cause the action. And I get that. I understand that need to want to hold on to it and just make them pay or whatever it is. But when you take them out of it and you work on that forgiveness, and it's not saying that what they did was okay. It's not acknowledging that, or, oh, well, maybe so. No, it doesn't matter. That it is not for them. You are not forgiving for their reasons. You're forgiving for your own. And you're just like getting yourself to that point where that situation does not hold you anymore. It does not bind you. And now you're able to walk away from it, move forward, take the lesson, or, maybe the lesson was people suck and they do terrible things. And then you just make that room so you can keep moving, so you can fill that space with positive things, love, light, however you want to say it. But it's basically forgiving that, so you don't have to be defined by that, and you don't have to have your life revolve around that anymore. It's leaving it where it is and moving forward.
That is a big part, is to move forward, right? And when we come back from break, we're going to, finish up maybe a card or two here I've got a bunch of angel decks out today of kind of that healing energy coming through, and also talking about what if we are not in a place of forgiveness, right? Does that mean that we're damned now because our energy is low and that we're not able to move forward and hit love and light? For me, no. For you?
Nope.
So see, we can disagree, we can agree, but we can come back together at that same point. So we're going to discuss that. We have a numerology class. This is a big month for us. So jump on Facebook, Shades of Spirit LLC. We have a numerology class coming up the 13th, which is this coming Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're interested in how numbers play a part in your life and your life path and your soul purpose and your heart vibration, we're here to do that with you. It's just a 2-hour class, so you can check that out. We've got room. We have our Release and Intentions monthly workshop. That is the 26th. It's a Friday night at 6:30 p.m. Yeah, I check my notes. And that is all about moving energy. A lot of people in these workshops actually take months and months and months and months to work into forgiveness, whether it be for themselves or for others, to help raise their vibrations, to create their intentions, to work towards their manifestations. It's a lot to say at one time.
Ooh.
But this class I've been doing it for 5 years now. And I do it religiously or not every Friday, but once a month. It's only $10 to join. You can sign up for that. We also are putting out, and it starts this month, a 6-month mediumship course. So what we're going to do is we're going to meet once a month. It gives you time to practice what we've learned. You can do it with like-minded individuals. We've already got people signed up for that. The first month is You Are Psychic, and we do some homework ahead of time and we move into that. We're going to talk about spirit team evolution and angel identification month 2. Month 3 is using energy to see. Month 4 is I Can See Dead People, intro into the mediumship side of it, not the psychic side. And month 5 is creating the story when you're sitting down with clients, or if you want to do that yourself within, what we can teach you from the tools from your tool belt for that person. And then we're going to learn month 6 about crystals and oracle cards and psychic mediumship and physical mediumship. It's going to be a really good time. Check that out as well on our Facebook page, and we're going to see you right after this break. Hello, everybody. I'm Psychic Medium Jaime.
Spiritwalker Nicole.
I'm learning the alphabet as I go today, so that just forgive me for a moment. I've got it.
See what you did there.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
That was my new way to get in. That was better than A.
No.
You still don't like that?
No.
I'm going to work on that.
Okay.
We are talking about forgiveness today and how we see it differently, and yet we can still come together on this topic. It is a tough topic sometimes because, for me, no, I'm a Virgo. I don't forgive. I don't forget. I own the energy, and that's my mistake, is owning that energy. And it's taken me a long, long time to realize that when I hold that energy within, it physically causes me pain, right? I will have tension. I will get migraines. I will get just regular headaches. I will feel like somebody's stabbing a knife into my shoulder blade. I'll have an upset stomach. And being a Reiki master and learning about energy and how it affects our body, I knew I had to do something. The first step for me was to allow myself to become vulnerable and allow myself to just show emotion, which I don't do either, unless I'm doing shows like I did last week on Eye of Soul, where we talk about suicide and talking about the people who, have to live through that and the ones that have passed by it. And that really hits me at an emotional core. So I cry more working with spirit than I do on the human emotional level. But I learned the past year and a half now, that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to fall on the floor into a bucket of a million, nails and pieces, and allow yourself to express that emotion. And it started to bring it up and out. And I also knew that I needed to connect with someone that could help me finish moving that energy out, which was Lori Crow, who we had on our show a few months ago, who died and survived. So if you haven't heard that show, she's amazing. And then she had 2 more near-death experiences. So her connection to source, if you will, is absolutely amazing. And so I will have energy work done with her. She's also a shaman. And the last time I did that was a profound moment because she was doing the shamanic Reiki for me. And I was told by my team partway through, it is time to forgive. And I had 3 people that I needed to really forgive and to cut the cords and ties and no longer have that emotional connection with them. I was no longer going to allow them to be in my space and take my energy. And so I had tears streaming underneath her little mask that she puts on while we're there. And I felt so light. But you know what, Debbie? I felt empowered. And yet I can guarantee you that from time to time, if something comes up with any of those people or an emotion or whatever, I will get angry and I will still feel. But I allowed myself to forgive for that moment. Will I be so easy to do that next time for someone else? I'm hoping there'll never be a next time, but we're all human. Probably not, I have to say. It took years and years and years for me to get to that place of allowing that energy to be released from me. And it was for me. I wasn't doing for my spirit team. I wasn't doing it for them. I realized their lessons are their lessons. My lessons are mine. And I had to sever those cords, those ties that have linked us based on history with those individuals, because it was time to move on. And it was time for me to ascend. And it was time for me to live in my energy and no longer have them with me as well.
That's big. I've noticed a change in you over the years, though, where you do start to show that emotion, and even telling the middle child story there, you could hear it, you
Yeah.
could see it, and that was something that I never saw before. But I think as you work in spirit and you learn, I mean, just through the readings that we give, you learn about forgiveness, and it, I don't know, it changes you, and you start really connecting with that word and what it means, and realizing that it really isn't about the other person.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes though, you might come to a situation where the one that you need that needs forgiveness is yourself. And sometimes that's the hardest thing we can do, because it's one thing to forgive someone else, or get to that point where you're thinking about forgiving them, but it's another when it's you, that you've done something, and then it's like, oh no, because now you have to live with that every day. And the first thing I would say, if it's something that you've done, if you've made a mistake, is to remember that we're not defined by our mistakes. Like, our mistakes tell us who we are not, and they inspire us to be better and learn from them, and hopefully not repeat those mistakes. You learn, you grow as a person, and you go, well, that's certainly not who I was. And then you start the process of forgiving yourself. And then the second thing is to really sit down and ask yourself what good is it doing holding that pain in and not releasing it. You're punishing yourself, however it is, and whatever way you choose to do. It's, I did something wrong, I don't want to forgive myself, I'm just going to keep punishing myself and beating myself up and saying bad things and to myself, and just destroying relationships and not getting to that forgiveness spot.
You become self-destructive one way or another. Maybe it is that you start drinking, or, I had someone who I had read, and their mother had found a coworker and a family friend who had committed suicide. She was the one that was the first one at the house when that happened. She wasn't supposed to be there. And what ended up happening was that she never did any drugs. Maybe drank occasionally. She worked at a bar, but nothing heavy, hardcore. A good, solid woman, and she ended up turning to drugs for one reason or another. Part of it was that I think the depression was setting in. That she had, there was a lot to take in when we're in that space. But sometimes we do turn to methods of self-destruction where we think we're coping or we're soothing. It can also, it can, my anxiety would be ramped up, and then I would want to sleep for days. That was my way of coping, because I was hiding and not actually acknowledging at the surface what it was that was the issue. And so I know that when I start to feel that within that physical body, that I have to be able to move forward, and I have to be able to forgive myself as well. I pulled a card. We had Victoria. You responded, so you're getting a card as we close off our show on forgiveness today. And this is from the Angel Guide deck, you guys. And it's about connecting on that higher level for us as well. So when we are forgiving ourselves, if we decide to forgive others, whether they're here or they're in spirit, it's about that connection process. For you, Victoria, on the act of forgiveness, the card I pulled was Listen Deeply. And it's just an absolute beautiful card. Remembering we have a spirit team that we can call on if we don't have individuals in our human life to be able to have those conversations with. There's a lot of times I have broke down with my own spirit team because I felt safe in that environment. They want you to listen to the messages. It says your angels are sending you guidance and inspiration through your powerful and resonant inner voice. Be ready to listen to that voice now. Listen to yourself. If you aren't able to hear yourself, you'll be blocking your connection to the information, insight, and guidance that can support you going forward. And they're talking about moving forward on that. If you've been ignoring or avoiding dealing with someone you feel that you've had to do for a long time, your angels are encouraging you to stop, listen to yourself, and do it now. And that's all that process we've been talking about all weekend for you. So listening deeply, connecting at that level, and hearing your own voice tell you that direction to go in, listening to your higher self and making those connections. It also says that the whispers of our inner voice are subtle, and it takes patience and willingness to hear them. And I love that. I love that as a sentence to kind of close off this part of the show on.
Mhm.
So your take on forgiveness, 2 minutes.
2 minutes? No. Do it for yourself. If no other reason, do it for yourself. That they call it the gift of forgiveness. Give yourself that gift, because other people might not deserve it, and that's not for you to worry about. Let them worry about that. Work on yourself. All of us are always working on ourselves, and just trying to do better and get better as people. And then it might come to a point where you realize how much energy you're spending on other things outside your control and outside, and that are not serving you anymore, and how great it would be if you could just get rid of that.
I agree. At the same time, if you're not in a space of forgiveness, that is okay as well.
Yeah.
You know, allow yourself to just feel, allow yourself to process, as hard as that may be, but don't hold it in any longer. And it will evolve over time, even if it's somebody that has caused you physical or emotional or mental harm. We can move into that space. But remember, the one thing I take away from working with spirit as we leave you with this, the end of the show, is that I am not the one to judge.
Nope.
And that is the hardest thing sometimes for us to separate. That I work with these individuals and that's not my place. My place is to help lift people up. And that's what we're going to ask you guys to do today. Lift up your fellow friends, coworkers, family members. Thank you so much for joining us, you guys. Stay tuned. Join me on Wednesday at 11 a.m. and we will see you guys next week. Bye.